Hi. Okay, let's keep this one brief.
My name is Tyler, and I love film. And today,
We will be talking about Let There Be Carnage. But before we get into that, hi, again. In this video, I will not just be talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I will also be talking about other Spider-Man films that are not in the Raimi trilogy or the MCU. So basically, all the ones that I have not covered yet. So without further ado, let's keep this brief. So the second time around, this film is better and worse than the first. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, significantly more than the first, and think its strength is the characters this time around and how it embraces itself and just tries to entertain you. But even though convoluted, the last film did have a plot and tried to structure itself as an actual movie. And the movie would be significantly better if it had anything that resembled pacing. But again, I do love how it's more of its own thing and it sets up a completely new and unique vibe from most other comic book movies, which adds to the charm of this film. It is very fun and very entertaining, and I enjoyed all the insane comic references and goof. It does feel like it's true to Venom, or at least Venom at the height of his popularity. I do wish this film did some more serious things and really, truly knew what it was, because the franchise is obviously still trying to figure itself out. Hopefully the next installment will be even better than this and will truly figure it out, because they could create some great horror things. They can have some actual strong character conflict, but they did just go for some run-of-the-mill rom-com stuff. And this movie is funny, like I said, entertaining, really campy, like in a good way. Carnage, when he breaks out, he literally makes a Carnage tornado. It's insane. And people are really seeming to enjoy this one, and I'm glad. But Carnage was terrible in this film. That's my biggest nitpick of the film. The villain was really weak, and I wish they really did something cool with him and actually did him justice. But it's a overall serviceable movie. And though it's not great, it is still awesome. I give this film a 7.6 out of 10. Okay, now we're going to circle back around to the original Venom film. And I honestly don't think it is too bad. First, as popular opinions go, this movie is very enjoyable and gives off this unique vibe that fits the character and the tone of the film. A vibe that makes you want more, despite the kind of trashy nature of the film. And all things considered, I think this film is slightly underrated by critics. It is definitely not as universally bad or as terrible as others say, because at least there's something to it. At least it tries and it has this unique vibe. It doesn't completely fail in all aspects, and the story isn't all bad. There is slight character development of Venom and Eddie throughout the film, even though it is just inconsistent and comes out of nowhere. And a problem that many people have with this film, and that I agree with, is the final battle and how bland it is, how underdeveloped the villain Riot is, and just how the ending goes down. We feel like we've learned nothing. We feel like that we've gone on a pointless, confusing journey. Of course, the vibe and story of this film is entertaining, but imperfect and not great. But the movie is a good place to build off of from the sequel, and it masters an aspect of Venom very well, just like the second film masters a different aspect of Venom very well. Each of these movies are for individual types of Venom fans. I love both of these movies, but I do like the second one a little more, because that one works way more when compared to this one. Overall, this film has too many faults and inconsistencies with characters, stories, and just overall pacing. But overall, I give this film a 5.8 out of 10. Well, those are my reviews on those movies. Time to get to the other two Spider-Man related films released theatrically that I have not reviewed on my channel. Starting with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Me and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 have been on a rocky journey. I used to think, like others, that it was bad, yet still watchable. But now I see it under a new light. Still not even close to great, but not worthy of the title terrible, or the title of the worst Spider-Man movie. Or at least, a bad one. Though this film is flawed, though it does so many things different and comes off as the same as something worthless. I believe it is indeed anything but that. But first, I'm going to get the obvious out of the way. The villains aren't great, the characters are inconsistent, and plot lines are completely wasted and amount to nothing and just waste time in the film. Overall, the film tries to do so much and accomplishes so little and comes off as weird, as unlikable and unsure of itself, making it incomplete. And that's the last thing you want your film to be. And this is not the actors or the director's fault, but yeah, the film isn't great. But there are still a few barely redeemable qualities. For example, look at these shots. This film feels alive. The direction is superb. It accomplishes what many complained about the last film, about it being too dark and not feeling like a Spider-Man movie. If anything, this film feels the most like a Spider-Man movie out of any of them. It's like a good episode of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon and even has the charm of the original 60s. When you swing with Peter in this film, you feel alive. You follow him, and the suit in this film is another improvement. It has grown on me a lot. I used to not think it is great, but wow, just look at that. Going back to the direction, it uses some unique camera work and is vibrant in color. Easily the best looking Spider-Man film, just look at the proof I provide you. To ignore the bland villains that are ranging from terrible to meh to kind of fun but still bad, there is character development in this film, and the film is about love, and you feel it. Electro's love for Spider-Man, that results in something terrible happening to him. And the love that ends up having something terrible happen to Gwen Stacy at the end of the film, the themes are here. They're just inconsistent. Even though the last 32 minutes of the film is great and uses all of this well and actually uses its themes, phenomenal directed action and character development. Also, the action is very fun in this film. It feels very Spider-Man-esque. Like I said, the last 32 minutes of this film are great. The Gwen Stacy death scene is great. Things actually feel like they could have paid off if done better before. And there's actual emotional resonance that go along with the theme of love. And a new theme springs up fully and completes itself with the theme of hope. And that last scene with the kid versus the Rhino, who I will admit is pretty perfect, is phenomenal. But overall, despite the bright spots I have exposed to you, this film just tries to do so much and accomplishes so little. I give it a 6.0 out of 10. This one's going to be a difficult one to talk about, but just like Avengers Endgame, I do not love Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse. That seems strange because I'm like the biggest Marvel fan. Even though both are great, I do not feel like they exemplify or fully use their potential to me. It is easily the best interpretation of Miles Morales and one of the only good ones. It was the first one to do it well. And the characters in this film are phenomenal. I love the approach, and I love Chris Miller and Phil Lord's movies. And I love this movie, and I love their approach to storytelling with this movie and pretty much all their other movies. But yet, I still do not love this movie. The animation is phenomenal, stylized, and perfect for the kind of story it wants to tell. It doesn't preach at you. It actually provides escape into this vibrant, creative world. And this film does some new things, along with some of the same things. But strength of this film is juggling so much. It makes each of its characters sympathetic, empathetic, and they each grow in some way. Especially the three main characters. And like I said, I love its comedic approach that takes itself seriously. It feels like a cartoon movie that doesn't feel Looney Tunes at the same time. It's a film that does a very specific thing very well. But still, why don't I like this movie? With the characterization of everything, the art style to the individual Spider-Man, to the motions of each character when it has thrilling action sequences, phenomenal character development, great themes of coming into your own, actual character investment and reason to do so, a conclusion that makes you feel completion. Unique and interesting spins on Spider-Man origin tropes that help this film that seems to be a copycat come into its own, just like it helped Miles Morales to do after, shooting him into popularity and this film into acclaim, along with a phenomenal plot and many elements juggled well, added to this film, making it one of the better, maybe even the best superhero film of 2018. And with all that, positive stuff to say. Why do I still not love Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse? Well, that's simple. To me, it is not Spider-Man. It is not my Spider-Man film. And it's not a Spider-Man film to me. But it was never meant to be. That's what the film's about, right? Coming into your own. And this film did. Though I don't agree with the notion that this is the best Spider-Man film and that it has plenty of inconsistencies and faults, I am not here to judge it on that. Because this film may not be the best Spider-Man film, but it is definitely the best film about Spider-Man. Or more specifically, a story about a boy and the idea of being a Spider-Man. And isn't that one that we can all relate to? I give this film a 9.3 out of 10.